Welcome back to All This Math. This is Professor Parker. If you're here, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed already, hit the subscribe button. If you have any questions about anything I discussed during this video, please don't hesitate to drop your comment or your question in the comment section. Also, share this video with at least one other person. Now, in this particular video, I want to promote this book that I wrote back in 2023. It's How to Use All This Math, Volume 1. Now, what is this book? This book is a resource guide for parents, grandparents, uncles, aunties, whoever that have a concern about the well-being of the youth, either in their family or in other families or in the community, right? What I'm doing in this book is I'm showing how to take everyday activities and leverage them and make them become arithmetic lessons, algebra lessons, geometry lessons. I'm showing you. And I got 20 different examples. Each example is a chapter. So I got 20 chapters. And today in this video, I'm going to talk about chapter 10. Chapter 10 on page 83 is called license plate games. All right. So I drew this like rough sketch of this like Pennsylvania license plate because today it just so happens that I was, walking, running some errands, and I try to get some cardio in because I'm getting a little older. So, and I don't want to just, be so sedentary all the time. So I try to get some steps in, do some walking, get some fresh air, get some vitamin D from the sun. You know what I'm saying? And as I'm walking, I like to look at, the license plates and play license plate games. So what does that mean? What it means is like we look at these four digits, right? 5, 8, 6, and 2. Now, depending upon what state you live in, your license plate in your state may have just as many digits in it or it may have less, right? So you may have to improvise. You may have to convert. And this is something else I suggest in the book too. In chapter 10 is that, you can convert the letters, right, into numbers, right? According to, this is just my suggestion, according to what number of the alphabet, like what position in the alphabet the letter is. So for example, the letter A would be number 1. The letter B would be number 2. The letter C would be number 3. The letter Z would be number 26 because it's the 26th letter, right? So that's something else you could do. If you live in a state where the license plates don't have as many numbers already, you can just convert the letters into numbers, or you could do it another way. You have free reign to do what you want. All right. But anyway, let's deal with this 5, 8, 6, and 2. So this is a very important skill, very important activity because, the fact is a lot of young people do not have their addition facts, subtraction facts, multiplication facts, division facts memorized. That's just a reality. So in order to fix that problem, we got to actually practice doing these things, and we don't want to only do it in school, right? When they're walking down the street, they see a car, it's got a license plate on the back with a front. They can practice addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. That's how you improve on something. You identify a weakness or deficiency, and then you go practice on that topic or that skill so you can grow and become better at that skill. All right. So let's do addition. Let's play an addition game with these. So what I like to do is I go from left to right and I just add the numbers. So I would do 5 plus 8. 5 plus 8 is 13. Then 13, take that sum. 13. 13 plus 6 is 19. Then take that sum, 19. 19 plus 2 is 21. That's it. Just something simple like that, just as an opportunity to just practice doing arithmetic. Practice doing arithmetic, which is something that a lot of us can benefit from. It'll help us, become more cognitive, right? Now, what about subtraction? Now, subtraction is cool too, because then we can get into the negative numbers, right? And depending on the combination of numbers we have on a license plate, we can get into the negative numbers. So if I start at 5 and I subtract 8, 5 minus 8 puts us into the negative. That puts us down to -3. All right, so it's a way to practice dealing with negative numbers. And so your children don't have to wait until they get to school to even be introduced to or practice dealing with negative numbers, right? They could do it with you. You could do it just, when you ride in the car and they see a license plate on another car, or they're walking down the street and they see a license plate on a car. So 5 minus 8 is -3. Then -3 minus 6 is -9. -9 minus 2 is -11. All right. So another way to just practice doing arithmetic just from just being outside. So with the multiplication, if I'm going to do multiplication with these four digits, I'm going to do 5 times 8 and I'm going to get 40. Then I'm going to do 40 times 6. That's when it gets fun. Now, 40 times 6. 40 times 6, 40 is a number that ends in 0. So what I could do is treat the 40 like it's a 4 and just do 4 times 6, which is 24, and then take a 0 and attach a 0 to 24 to get 240. Now, why does that make sense mathematically? Because when you think about it, 40 times 6 is the equivalent of saying 4 times 10 times 6, since 40 is the same thing as 4 times 10. Because 40 is the same thing as 4 times 10. And as a matter of fact, let me write it down for you, because I want you to understand this, because this is a good way to do mental math, right? So let's say we want to do 40 times 6. Now let's think about this. 40 is the same thing as 4 times 10. So 40 times 6 would be the same thing as 4 times 10 times 6. Now, we also can use something called the commutative property, which means we can switch the position of this and this, and we can do 4 times 6 times 10, right? 4 times 6 is 24. And then 24 times 10 is 240, because whenever you multiply a number by 10, you're essentially just expanding it by a factor of 10. So you're really just attaching a 0 to the end of that number, which is what I said. If you're doing 40 times 6, you could pretend, right, because it's going to give you the same outcome, pretend that 40 is just a 4, and just multiply the 4 by the 6 and get your 24. And then multiplying by 10 is the same thing as just attaching a 0 at the end of the number, at the end of the product you already got. So now I got 240. So now I'm doing 240 times 2. 240 times 2 is equal to 480. Now, how do I know that? Because if I pretend this 240 is actually just a 24, what's 24 times 2? There's 24 hours in a day. How many hours in 2 days? 48 hours. Attach the 0. You get 480. So that's another way to just play with the numbers, right? The numbers are all around us. We just have to take the responsibility for using those numbers to practice and develop our skills. License plate games. There's license plates all over the place, right? If you're riding in the car, it's cars in front of you, it's cars to the right of you, cars to the left of you, right? Your children can look at those license plates and just play with the numbers. They can just do that. They can just play with the numbers. Add up all the digits, subtract the digits. And subtracting the digits is great, because then you get practice with negative numbers, depending on what numbers you end up with. Like these numbers, we ended up with negative numbers, right? Let's do division. What about division? See, with the division, now we get into fractions, right? Which is great practice. 5 divided by 8. We'll call that 5/8, right? And then 5/8 divided by 6. 5/8 divided by 6. Now, dividing by 6 is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. So 5/8 divided by 6 is the same thing as, well, yeah, let me write it. 5/8 divided by 6 is equal to 5/8 times 1/6. 5/8 times 1/6. So what's 5 times 1? 5. What's 8 times 6? 48. So now we got 5/48. 5/48, right? Now, 5/48 divided by 2. Let's write that. 5/48. Now, this is meant to be mental math, right? But I'm just showing you on the board what the mental process would be. So 5/48 divided by 2 is the same thing as doing 5/48 times 1/2. So we can do 48 times 2. Now remember, when you multiply, we don't need a common denominator. We don't need it. We could do it, but we don't need it, right? When you add or subtract fractions, you need a common denominator. Keep that in mind. Adding and subtracting fractions, you need a common denominator. When you're dividing and multiplying fractions, you don't need a common denominator. All right, so this 48, this being 48 and this being 2 is cool. It's not a problem. You can have different denominators. So 5 times 1 is going to be 5. And then 48 times 2 is going to be, what's that, 96? So 5/96. 5 over 96, or 5/96. I always had difficulty saying that, when it's a 6 at the end in the denominator. So, all right, so yeah, so this is just something light you could do, when you see a license plate. This is license plate games. Take the numbers, add them all up, subtract them from each other, multiply them by each other, divide them by each other. You'd be surprised, right? This is just a way to get your children's fluency up, right? Get their math fluency up, right? Once they get their fluency, then a lot of the other stuff that they're going to learn in school becomes so much easier. And these children are going to have confidence, because they're going to have confidence. Because what happens at first, they might struggle a little bit. This might be challenging at first, but if they keep at it, then their accuracy will increase and their speed. Accuracy and speed. And then they're going to really have a lot of confidence, because they're going to be like, yo, I know 5 times 8, 40. Boom. 40 times 6, 240. Boom. 240 times 2, 480. Right? That's how you become a math scholar. And once you become a math scholar, that opens up a whole world of opportunities to your children, a whole world of opportunities that, otherwise they wouldn't have had access to. And also it keeps them away from a lot of nonsense. Because when you got a whole lot of opportunities, you're less likely to even get involved in a bunch of nonsense. A lot of times the nonsense becomes appealing, because people just, especially children, feel like, young people, teenagers, whoever, they feel like, what else I'm going to do? I might as well go get involved with this nonsense and just see what happens. So get your children math skills early. And this is one of the ways to develop the math skills. And it's right in front of you. Oh, and yeah. And if you want more tips like this, more activities, go grab a copy of my book. It's available on Amazon right now. How to Use All This Math Volume 1. How to Use All This Math Volume 1, available on Amazon. Go look that up. Tap in. All right. So now, if you didn't already, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Share this video with somebody. If you got any questions about anything I did or any comments, recommendations, throw that in the comment section. Go to Amazon, grab a copy of my book. All right. Maybe buy it as a gift. Give it to somebody else too. All right. And I'll see you all on the next video. Peace.